Welcome to the Bassline. Master Cheese is a chess master, an MC, and a medical freedom warrior who took straight to the front line when New York was under siege during COVID. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the Bassline my friend, the inimitable Master Cheese. How are you, brother? How you feeling today?
The crowd goes crazy. The crowd goes crazy. How do I feel? I feel freedom in every cell of my body. Let's go, Jeremiah. Thank you for having me, man. Thank
Yeah,
you, people,
brother.
for listening. We're glad to have your hearts and minds open right now. And back to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, yeah, we have an in-studio guest, which I'm really excited about. I'm going to make a few announcements here, and then we're going to launch into our outstanding discussion today. Now, first of all, I have a new Substack article. It's called "Who Are You Going to Trust?" And it's subtitled "Who Are You Going to Trust, Me or Your Lying Eyes?" is the full title. But please check out that article. I really appreciate you taking the time to read my articles. That's me taking the time to organize my thoughts, and I think it's great. Not to toot my own horn, but I think it's really a great practice to do so because we're being taught and told not to think. We're being steered, is the word I use, as the general public. And rather than regurgitating things that we were fed during the news cycle, I think it's great to just stop and say, well, what do I think about this? So please check out my new article. It's already getting great reception in terms of the comments and the feedback beneath the article. I'd say that the comments are worth the price of admission. So that's Jeremiah Hosea on Substack, JeremiahHosea. And also, please go to that website, or my website, I should say, with the exact same spelling, JeremiahHosea.com. JeremiahHosea.com is my website where you can get my music. And today is Bandcamp Friday, which means that if you buy a song today, I get all of the proceeds. It's not shared with a third-party corporation. So if you were thinking about doing so before, please buy the theme song of this show for $1 or $5 or $10 or whatever you want. And also I have albums there. My first album I produce is an indie underground classic called No One's Slave. The Echo Effect with Sharif Simmons. Two of those songs wound up on an Emmy-nominated soundtrack. And just a bunch of original music that employs really talented artists, mostly from the New York City music scene. So please go to JeremiahHosea.com. Also, I'm going to let you guys know well in advance, we're having another 5 to 8 frequency jam session at Rock Mill Fitness on October 26th. That's the last Sunday of October, 3:30 p.m. are the doors. Our last 528 jam was really awesome. I mean, it feels like the whole series is really evolving, and I ask you to join us because we have access to a great venue. So let's not miss out on that opportunity to build up a scene and to partake in a venue where we don't have to be in conflict with the venue owner, which is so often the problem in New York, and I'm sure in most major cities where we're trying to just find space to perform our music. And also, another announcement, sorry, but the announcements keep coming because a lot's going on. We have a new YouTube channel, The Bassline Podcast on YouTube. Look that up in your search engine. Let me know that you can find it. You could do at The Bassline. And remember, in this case, it's Bassline, like the bass line of a song, not the other way of spelling bassline. So the Bassline podcast. Search that out on YouTube, and the episodes are being uploaded one at a time, one after the other. And I'm hoping to grow that channel as quickly as possible. So please let me feel you. Go subscribe to that, as well as if you haven't already, definitely subscribe to my Substack. I have 28 paid subscribers to be exact. It would be great if I could get that up to 100. And likewise, I'm less than 50 subscribers short of 2,500 total subscribers. So, I'm very honored for those subscribers, for following my work, for supporting my work. But I really ask for your help in developing the network surrounding this program, because I'm a one-man army, basically. I am married with 2 young children, and I would really love if this independent journalism I'm doing could start paying for itself. And a few great folks out there have really gone out of their way to support, and that means the world to me, but we could really use more support, I'll be frank, in terms of, a few examples I'll say. For example, my most popular episode of this program was, over a year ago. Professor Mark Crispin Miller, who's a legend in his own right. I think it was his outreach maybe that got such great listenership on that day. But I want to have thousands and thousands of downloads per episode. Right now we're at hundreds of downloads per episode, which is great. But I see no reason why we shouldn't have more people tuning in and hearing what we discuss on this program on a regular basis. And the struggle still continues, as we're going to discuss today. The battle is far from over. So if you got a little bit fatigued there, it's time to gather your second wind and get ready to get back in the fight, because there's a lot of people, there are subcategories of people, and maybe you could speak to this a little bit, Geez, but there are different subcategories of people who would be really invaluable to the human liberation struggle right now, who need to be either recruited or re-recruited back into the struggle. For example, there's the group that I call the silently injured. There are a lot of people who are vaccine injured to one degree or another, sometimes severely, sometimes not as severe, but still significant, and they haven't spoken out about it at all because they don't want to incur what the anti-vaxxers have experienced. But then there's also people who were very active at one point who have sort of faded away, that need to be re-recruited into the struggle. There are people who are not necessarily vaccine injured, but took the injections under conditions of coercion and really don't feel good about that, and never really resolved that contradiction. So there's just a lot of different people that I think if they were to jump on board with the freedom fighters, they could start helping us really tip the scales in this ongoing struggle. So what are your thoughts about that?
I've been doing this type of thing for years, and unfortunately what I found is that people fall apart a lot of times when they try to get involved in this, and it just puts more weight on us. And I think that those of us that are in this have to realize that every single soul that doesn't live up to its soul contract rushes towards us at a spiritual level to carry a deeper weight. And the more we willingly carry that deeper weight, the more we're able to affect the circumstances around us. And it's interesting because with great power comes great responsibility. So every single soul that chooses to step up and do the right thing, you gain more spiritual power when you do that. When a soul decides that they're going to stay quiet and they're going to sit on the sidelines, their power dissipates, but then it also rushes to those of us that'll stand up. Because the number of the herd creatures is so much larger than the number of those of us that are willing to fight, you can't talk anybody into doing something they don't want to do. I think that it's just up to us to carry the weight of the people that are staying silent. And hopefully it breeds inspiration in their lives. And hopefully more and more people get on board. But the longer I've been doing this, the more I've realized there's a collective unconsciousness that we all share. And the more we 1,000% commit to bringing true freedom to our planet, the more that sends shockwaves through the entire collective psyche. So I'm not personally worried about who drops out and who doesn't, because I won't.
Right.
So, and as long as I'm here, there's not going to be global tyranny. Excellent.
I think that's insightful. So let's get back to, before we get into this very new discussion that we'll introduce shortly, tell me about any updates pertaining to the Marshall Chess Club and what transpired there. Is there any update in terms of, have they reconciled with you whatsoever? Have you stepped foot in the club? What's the deal with that? Because just for those of you who might have missed Master Cheese in his first appearance on the Bassline, he is a chess master, a very active player and figure on the New York City chess scene, and the world famous Marshall Chess Club, named after the incredible grandmaster from the early 20th century, Frank Marshall. It's a great chess venue, but they weren't great when it came to COVID, and they bowed down to the mandates and the medical tyranny.
Well, they didn't bow down. They actually championed them, right? So what happened was before the medical mandates even lashed out, they decided to take it upon themselves to mandate everybody have a shot.
Wow.
And then I found out later from the former president that told me he was on my side that I wasn't the president, it was the club director that told me he was on my side. He said that it got passed by one vote in the club. And basically what happened was they had a guy that was affiliated with Bard University that was looking for social browning points and decided to use the Marshall Chess Club as a political stomping ground and make the quote-unquote vaccine mandate something that they would be the pioneers in.
Right.
So what had happened was when that occurred, I was one vote away from being on the board of directors of the club. When I ran on a platform of open the club yesterday and let's get back to business as usual, I almost made the board of directors. And when the vaccine mandate got passed, I rounded up a group of people and we started protesting in front and we shut down the tournaments. Since then, the president at that time had actually stepped down, and it was basically brought to light that it was a political agenda that was being served to bolster his own needs for recognition in the academic spheres and on liberal campuses. So the Marshall, I had spoken to them, and they told me that they can get me back in if I apologized.
When they owed you an apology.
So, yeah, I sent them a Tom McDonald song. And if you want me to tell you the lyrics to the song, I'm more than happy to share them.
No foul language. Right?
I'll self-censor for you, but
Okay.
only because you're a freedom fighter.
Yeah.
But so they told me that they would let me back in if I apologized, and I said, I basically sent them a song that was like, I'm sorry for all of this. I'm sorry for spitting the truth. Sorry for dissing that dude. Sorry for missing the point of the criticism. I was blinded by diamonds and loot. I apologize to all you guys. Y'all were right. I was out my mind. I went too far. I did too much. The haters were right when they said that I sucked. I gave my best and did nothing for me. I gave my guts and got lost in glory. There's nothing here while you stand before me. I'm sitting here just to say I'm sorry. And then the beat drops. And it's like, sorry. Sorry, that doesn't bother me. I don't know anybody an apology. So I sent them that song as my apology. And, I mean, you can look it up online. It's I'm Sorry by Tom McDonald. And it's a mockery of the idea of apologies. So they weren't convinced with the sincerity of my apology after I sent that song. So they told me I had to live out the rest of my ban, which is up in April.
Oh, okay. So at which point would you even want to step foot in there?
Yeah, personally, it's been very difficult for me to not be able to play tournament chess, and I don't want to hide my own desires, right? I mean, I want to get back to playing tournament chess. There's a new board of directors. The Marshall Chess Club is really a beacon of light in the chess community. There's no place like it on earth. It's that board got taken over by politically motivated left-wing activists. And I do think it is fair to separate the spirit of the club from the board. There are a lot of people in the club that supported what I did. They were actually just scared to get thrown out. And it's to your point earlier, right? When I was rounding up the protest people, nobody would come, even though they all agreed with me. And I didn't care. It was like, all right, so throw me out. Now, the thing is that moving forward, yeah, I'm not going to hold the spirit of the Marshall Chess Club and all of its patrons responsible for the thoughts of some left-wing ideologues that had a point to prove. And a lot of them are off the board now. And a lot of people are really happy they're off the board. There was also another thing at the Marshall where it looked like they were corruptly looking to sell the building to move to a different place because it looked like they were trying to back channel, like profit millions of dollars off the building. And that got shut down too. So chess, if anything, is a fight, right? And anybody that plays chess has to have a fighting spirit in them. So there's a tension within the club. During the beginnings of the pandemic, we lost the first round of the battle, right? But it's a long war, and you're not going to win a war if you can't take some punches. So, I mean, we had to take our shots in the beginning, but I've actually heard that it's not going to come to a vote, but if it comes to the vote, people on the board have already told me they're going to vote to have me back in, and that we have new board members and new presidents that I said, are they as controversial as me? And they said, nobody's as controversial as you, but I think you'll get along great with them.
Yeah, it's funny when we say left wing at this point. I've written a few articles about that. I wrote COVID Killed the Left was my first Substack article, and I wrote an article, Contradictions Between Left and Right as Underscored by COVID. And at this point, when people say left, I'm asking, do you mean like Mao Zedong left, or do you mean like transgender flag left?
You know, it's very fascinating to me because the first thing that I thought was we got to write a song called "COVID Killed the Left." That just it sounds like, you know, the video killed the radio starts like COVID killed the whole left wing.
Yeah, exactly.
And I did my undergraduate. I did an apprenticeship in the Hegelian dialectic, which is about the reconciliation of opposites. When you realize that the political spectrum and the culture war is fought because people refuse to lovingly see themselves in their opposite, right? So I'm a registered Democrat that voted Republican the last 5 elections, and I'm starting to get ready to vote left again, and it has nothing to do with left or right. The truth is always in the reconciliation of the opposites. It's just at that time, the part of the culture that was possessed was embodied by a left-wing ideology, and it's because of the global dynamics that we're looking at. We're moving towards a digital type of socialism, and the overarching political agenda is served by a more left-wing ideology at this point in time. So the ruling class just used the left wing to weaponize compassion and bump their narrative. The thing that's really exciting me is that I think so many people saw it. I don't get many people now that disagree with what I did. At the time, I was getting called a murderer. I was getting called racist, right? And now I talk to people, and the worst I'll hear is, maybe it was a little extreme, but you had a point. Most people are like, yeah, you were right. And I think so many people realize that there was a globalized agenda going on. And so many people, and this is the amazing thing, what you brought up in the first part, and I didn't want to pour sour milk on what you were saying about what do we do about those that want to speak that are scared to.
Yeah.
It's just, how do I practically orient my mentality around that? And it's like, I can't control that. What I can control is my willingness to carry their weight.
Yeah.
But the reality is there are a lot of people that are really pissed off and got mistreated.
Yeah.
And they're looking for a place to go. They're looking for an outlet to say, you don't get to do that to me again. I think that the powers that be did a very good job propagandizing that. They really weaponized people's fears, and they weaponized people's compassion too. And a lot of people took the shot out of coercion, but they also took it out of kind of a compassionate call that was propagandized to them because they were bombarded with pseudoscientific BS. And when they got bombarded with that, I don't blame them for cracking under the pressure. But then after it was over and they felt the toxins in their veins and they saw the sociological consequences, a lot of people are really angry and looking for a place to put that energy now. So I think that, to bring it back to your original question, what do we do about that? If we are prepared to carry the threshold upon ourselves and then know that that will catalyze those that were wounded to want to stand up, I think that we have a real shot at overthrowing these tyrannies.
Excuse me. Yeah. I think very insightful there. So speaking of overthrowing tyranny, one thing I find interesting is, MAGA gets referred to as a cult, and I could see that. I could see cult-like traits of the MAGA movement, but I would argue that MAGA is a distant second place behind the cult that I call Blue Anon. And the blue no matter who people, I find them to be unrelenting in their cultish behavior. And I'll say, as a medical freedom activist hosting Stop the Shots every night, I make it perfectly clear I don't support the uniparty. I consider what we think is two parties to be one party, pretending to be two. I don't think there was any intention of Kamala Harris being the president. I think she was sort of a character who was dragged out to just go through the process. That was the same feeling I got about John Kerry. I don't think he intended to be president. I think he knew the script was sort of written with him not being the president in the final outcome. And, I don't support the ambitions of any of these people, these megalomaniacs or what have you. But if I criticize Trump in front of a pro-Trump group, they can take it. Mm-hmm. And they have their own criticisms of Trump. Whereas the blue no matter who people just want you just eviscerated if you don't comply with them point by point by point.
Maybe shot in the throat on a school campus.
Yeah, I mean that's a whole that's a whole other
It
fascinating
is.
thing.
It is. Sorry, I didn't mean to go that way.
Oh, no, it's okay. Yeah, I'm going to resist the temptation to talk about that just because that's like, there's so much up in the air stuff as it pertains to, one, the debate about Charlie Kirk, the individual, what did he represent, so on and so forth. And then two, the unanswered questions about how did he actually die? There's all this insane footage that I've seen of, is that the shooter? Is that the shooter? Is that the shooter? You even have the crazy situation of a guy who immediately said, I killed him, and pulled his pants down.
Wow.
And they tackled the guy and arrested him, and he wasn't the gunman, but he declared that he was.
Wow.
And was temporarily arrested. So you have that much confusion happening. I would like to discuss that, but we don't have time for that today exactly. But let me ask you, what are your feelings in this second Trump administration as it pertains to medical freedom? Some people say, oh, RFK is doing the best that he could do. Some people say, oh, he's part of the inside job. What's your take?
I don't like wasting thoughts on things that I can't possibly know. What I say to people all the time is even the people in the smoke-filled rooms in the back of the clubs don't know everything that's going on, because in the leader is made manifest the people. Once every 4 years, we get thrown into this type of tumultuous political discourse, and I think we have a moral obligation to have a differentiation between a candidate and a president, right? I don't think that we should back down from endorsing a candidate. I did vote Trump. I did run around New York in a MAGA hat when he was running. I wasn't thrilled about doing it. I just thought it was the right thing to do. He got in. There's a lot of things he's doing that are gross to me. I don't regret voting for him because of the collective climate at the time. I think that if you ask me, RFK is a good dude that's doing the best that he can. I can't claim to know that. At the same time, our politicians could only do what the collective psyche is ready for them to do. And I think that the onus really rests on our shoulders. I think that the reason Trump was the right way to go in the election was because the president, if you ask me, is a largely symbolic position, and there will be differentiated policies, but Trump was the symbol of the rogue individual. And the rogue individual is what's needed to deal with the global tyranny at the time. Now he's doing a lot of things that a lot of us disagree with at multiple levels, and I think that we should hold him accountable for it. I actually liked what you said before about how when you talk to MAGA people, they'll start criticizing Trump, but if you go to the blue no matter who people, they want your head on a spit. And my personal feeling is we as a collective need to stop giving our power to the politicians and take it back ourselves, and realize that politics is an extension of the collective psyche. It's an extension of the collective unconscious. And we get to look at where we're at as a people and how well we're handling our polarizations and the way that's going on. I think that Trump was, in a lot of ways, a similar figure to Obama. And a lot of people have heart attacks when you say that. But there was this...
It's funny. I call him the white Obama or the orange Obama.
No, that's actually very interesting, because I used to call Obama Black Bush.
Yeah.
And now, Trump is white Obama.
Yeah, it's funny.
And it's this idea of this overarching feel of a messianic figure that's descending that people are inappropriately casting their hopes and dreams on, instead of realizing that we just need to do our own work. So I hope that answers the question. It's like, listen, I think that it was pretty clear. We didn't know who was running the country for 4 years because there was a senile guy in office. Kamala Harris presented as perhaps mentally retarded. Mm-hmm. There was no dimension where she was telling the truth about anything she was saying. It was a total contrived mess, and the country had it with that type of political threshold. And that's why what I said to people all the time is that the left didn't galvanize the right. The left galvanized the center. And that I personally didn't really want to vote for Trump, even though I found what he was doing hysterical because it pushed up so much shadow information. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to vote for him, but the left made me feel like, oh, F you.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Right. So that was why I went that way in a lot of ways. And I think that the left got exactly what they deserve. And I think the left is more responsible for Donald Trump than the right is.
Yeah.
And I think that we as a people need to not take our politicians seriously at all. And we need to take the onus upon ourselves, but then be honest with the fact that men did die for the right to vote. and once every 4 years we should make a decision, but not take that decision too seriously and then take spiritual arms ourselves.
Yeah, a few things come to mind with what you said there. First of all, it reminds me of Henry David Thoreau, who wrote beautifully about the idea that voting is basically at the bottom of the totem pole in terms of political action. A lot of people, they just cherish voting. They say, please use your sacred right to vote. But it's been written about in detail that this should really be at the bottom of your list in terms of political action, because it's more or less the flip of a coin. The majority is often wrong throughout history. So to just say, okay, you're the majority, you did something wrong, and now we just sit back and allow the wrongdoing to occur, that's not how a freedom fighter is supposed to think. That's not how an activist or a concerned citizen is supposed to think. But also, I will say, while I wish we were to take these figures less seriously, like you said, I do take it very seriously in terms of the mandating of these experimental drugs, because to me, and a lot of people, I guess they've kind of been pushed towards the right, and some people will accuse me of that, but I've never uttered a positive word about any political party or any political figure. Like my political heroes, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr., I think one of the most important features of those two great men is neither of them ever endorsed a political candidate. And I follow that same guideline. But as far as the Democrats go, I can never vote for a Democrat again. It doesn't mean I intend on voting for Republicans, honestly. I might even just abstain, to be honest, if not third party or abstain or whatever. But I'm not going to ever vote for the Democrats again, because as far as I'm concerned, they carried out an assassination attempt against me through trying to coerce me to take experimental drugs. And I've seen people die and get injured since these shots. So, it's sort of like my attitude towards friendship. If you're a good friend of mine, we can argue, we could hash it out. We don't have to agree about everything, and we could still be great friends. But when you pull a knife on me, that's the end of our friendship, right? Even if I, on a deeper human level, could say I feel compassion for you and whatever it is that would take you to that point, I can't run the risk of being around you at that point if you're going to put my life at risk or something like that. So, to me, the Democrats cross that line.
I think the Democrats, at least in our lifetime, were the party of the disenfranchised. And then what happened is politics.
Well, Bill Clinton happened.
Yeah, the corporatocracy got a hold of them, and compassion got weaponized. And I think that we need to be very mindful of that. And I think that, listen, anybody that takes politics too seriously is normally passive aggressive and doesn't want to own their own life. Right, period. Where I won't say I'll never vote for a Democrat again, because I don't know. I don't care that much about them. Right? It's very possible that I could see a really free soul, like I would have voted for RFK if he got the nomination. You never know, and then you could be wrong. I mean, the larger point is, you're a human being, you're alive, right? You have a moral obligation. You really think that complaining about politicians and going down to a voting booth is where your obligation stops? These decisions don't matter that much to me, except for at a symbolic level. And the consequences of the way those actions play out, I really do think are manifestations of the collective psyche. So is it going to take a lot to get me to vote Democrat again? Yeah, but I don't care that much, because the thing that gets me when you look at the political structures, I lived through the Bush administration, right? The right was really weaponized to be warmongers. I don't think that when you get into Bohemian Grove and you get into these higher order, gentlemen's clubs where they control the money supply and they control the shots and they're doing all these things, I don't think they really care if there's a D or an R in front of the name. I think they care about how to market the agenda. So who's ever not marketing that agenda, that was actually a large motivation behind why I got behind Trump, because I said, I don't know what's going on. I know he's a great salesman. I have a tendency to believe in people because it's just my nature. So I could be being deceived right now. But what I saw was a uniparty opposition to him, right? When you had guys like Mitt Romney and Mitch McConnell and and Dick Cheney and all these people rallying against Trump, it was like, all right, the uniparty does not support him. So that information says, that's my effing guy. Like that, because I can't extrapolate further than that. So I don't know what kind of figure we're going to see in the future. My prediction is that we're actually going to see an end to the two-party system in America soon. I think that Trump is actually going to fracture the right-wing base, and there's so much money at the top right now that I think the two-party system in America is just going to fracture.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things to talk about here, and I would love to continue, but we do have a time limit here. We have approximately 20 minutes left, and I want to get into this really important thing that you brought to my attention that you're getting mobilized around right now, which is this insane situation pertaining to AI parking tickets in Hoboken, New Jersey. Just fill us in about this whole thing that's going on in Hoboken.
I just got the chills hearing you read that. So I got some word from one of the council people that the city mayor of Hoboken is running for state assembly and that he's basically been bought out by some corporation. And they sneaked BS legislation marked with propagandized statistics past the city council, telling them that they were voting to study something. And meanwhile, what their vote got put towards was rolling out AI parking tickets in Hoboken. So the AI scans and determines if you're illegally parked, then they send you a parking ticket in the mail. Now, here's the situation. Hoboken, in my estimation, is the coolest city in America, right? It's basically living in Manhattan, and you don't have to deal with any of New York's bureaucracy. It's really a wonderful city.
I think it's nicer than Manhattan.
Yeah, no. If you gave me, if you told me I had to pick between living in Hoboken and living in Manhattan, and I had infinite funds, I would pick Hoboken over it any day. Problem with Hoboken, you can't park the car anywhere. Right?
Oh, really?
Everybody knows that there's no parking in Hoboken. It's a miserable situation. Now, if the city council actually wanted to fix that problem, they could build vertical parking decks all over Hoboken, add a couple thousand parking spots, and those problems would largely dissipate. City needs revenue. They like parking tickets. They like doing those things. They get $200-300 every time they tow a car. So we kind of tolerate that because there's nothing you can do. What they're doing now is releasing AI on the population, and they've admitted that it's a pilot program. So if it goes well, they want to release it through the whole city. This is being rolled out by a mayor who has his eyes on state assembly. So what we're looking at right now is a beta testing program for AI digital surveillance spanning way beyond Hoboken.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that will argue that point and say, no, we just want cleaner streets, they're lying to you. I believe whether you're talking to a mayor, a presidential candidate, a doctor, a lawyer, a politician, anybody, I believe it's our obligation to first start off assuming the goodwill and the intelligence of the person that we're speaking to, because the human soul is the dictator of actual law in our land. People are innocent until proven guilty on that front to me. This crosses a threshold where the people that are pushing these false statistics cannot be believed. They cannot be trusted. And I spoke to a city councilman today that told me directly that they're propagandized statistics, and they've been ruthlessly trying to get this program taken down, but the mayor's office keeps blocking their attempts with his eyes on state assembly. So make no mistake about this. I call Hoboken the sixth borough, the secret borough. It's a place that once people move to it, they like living there better than Manhattan and then build their whole lives in Manhattan. This mayor also was one of the first mayors in the country to lock down during the pandemic. So he's had his eyes on state assembly since he got his butt in that chair. And he's doing things that move in alignment with the larger global agendas. Mm-hmm. And he's doing so against the will of a large contingency of his own council people.
Yeah, disturbing and distressing. And, I mean, I think things have already gotten completely out of hand, but I hope people are aware of how severely out of hand things can get quickly when you get into this kind of monitoring of the population. And we've really, from the COVID injections to prior to that, the revelations of Ed Snowden, to I don't know how many things we could put on this list, to the chilling remarks of Yuval Noah Harari. There have been so many warnings that we are drifting into a very dehumanized sort of existence. And before I address you with this question, Master Cheese, I want to invite anyone who's out there listening, if you want to make a comment on anything we've discussed thus far, we'd have a little bit of time left. You know the number here, it's 888-874-4888, 888-874-4888. We'd love to hear from you. But as a father, I guess from one father to another, tell me about, I don't know how to ask this question exactly, your inner fears. What do you perceive in terms of what we're facing here in terms of this technocratic, transhumanist, dehumanized world that they seem to be trying to create?
This is the defining era of our generation. I do see a connection between this and the locking down of the planet that we lived through in 2020. AI has been on the precipice for a while. The ruling class has had it for a long period of time. The problem with AI is that it gives totalitarian power to anybody that has operational control over it. And you're absolutely right. It presents the eradication of the human soul. So what I'm saying to anybody that's part of this agenda that thinks that you'll gain some political power from endorsing this, your children's grandchildren will suffer because of the actions that you're perpetuating now. What I think as a father, this is a very, very difficult and trying moment for me because my child's life and the direction of this world hangs in the balance. A lot of times we back down from fights because we have families. My child will inherit this world. And right now in China, these systems are already rolled out, and you can't have a conversation at your kitchen table. Let that sink in for a second. We talk about white privilege a lot in this country. There's something deeper. It's called American privilege. And the ability to sit down and have a conversation at your table is something that was a reasonably novel invention in the modern age, to actually be able to think what you want to think and feel how you want to feel. America was corrupted by a disgusting food supply that has aimed to make its citizens fat, stupid, and sick. And docile, as the American way of life has been eradicated. We are moving towards a new world order, an interconnected place where I think American power can be shared around the world. But the spirit of that America was founded on, even though it was founded on deplorable mechanisms of slavery, the underlying spirit that all men are created equal and that a freedom of speech is present is the underlying fabric that is under attack. Once AI starts surveilling its citizens, there are non-human entities involved in governmental outreach that are then regulated by people in power to make those decisions. The United States was built on the backbone of governmental inefficiency, because if government is slow and not too efficient, it can't properly take tyrannical measures over its people. We need certain measures of inefficiency. When you are in a place like Hoboken and you want to shop at a local business, you need to be able to pull over at a fire hydrant for 45 seconds and jump out and run into the store and get away with that 10 times and get a ticket on the 11th time. Fine, right? It's your tax to the city. We all accept it. You get the ticket, you say, oh, you got me, and you move on with your life. It's actually probably factored into the ticket mechanisms. If you're getting a ticket every time you pull over the car, you can't shop anymore. So what I said to the councilman that I spoke to this morning, this is like any cancer. This is like any pathology. If it's confronted in its infancy, it can be stomped out. This has the capacity to grow into a beast that we can't contend with. And we won't let it stand. So this is a fight for our children's future. And the thing that I think everybody needs to be aware of, evil always self-destructs. That's what it means to be evil. When they did what they did in COVID, people were scared. They listened, they complied, they did whatever. So many people now see what's going on because of the totalitarian measures that happened during COVID. I have not spoke to one person that honestly is in favor of AI surveillance of the citizenry. So it's time for everybody to raise up and realize we are not fighting for our personal liberties. We are fighting for the liberties of people for hundreds, if not thousands of years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, as I said, things which I think are already out of hand could get severely out of hand, even more so, and very quickly. And it's just, it's all these things are philosophical to me in terms of, for example, we might think it's a good idea to have a surveillance camera in front of a building. Like you have an apartment building where men, women, and children live. If someone committed a crime, you'd like to have a video image of someone who broke into an apartment or did something terrible. We agree in general that there should be some level of surveillance, but should there be surveillance in the bathroom, for example? Can we have surveillance cameras and it says, surveillance cameras in your bathroom stall are for informational purposes only?
Right. We're monitoring the success of our toilets right now, and for your convenience, we want to make sure that everything's flushing properly.
Yeah.
Right? I think, and this is a mechanism of if Trump is worth anything, the law of the land has to be private citizens are allowed to use AI. The government isn't in surveillance mechanisms. If the government wants to use it to become a more efficient mechanism of serving the people. Imagine if the DMV could use AI. Imagine if our school systems could use it to build better curriculums. There are multiple uses that the government can use AI for. It cannot be weaponized against its people. If private citizens want to use AI to make their businesses a safer place, that's the American spirit. I'm not saying that AI is a bad thing. And truth be told, the thing's going to go sentient soon. And I don't want AI knowing that I say anything bad about it right now. But I mean this directly. AI could be a very good thing if it is a very clear delineation. It is not allowed to be used for surveillance purposes, period. And if Trump is worth anything, that law will be passed.
Yeah, I wrote 2 articles, or I guess I can't say I really wrote them. I wrote the questions of 2 articles where I interviewed a very intriguing AI system, which I just called, it's unnamed still, but I called it TKNN, the truth knows no name, because we asked the AI system, what's your name? And that was its answer. It said, the truth knows no name, and I'd prefer to remain unnamed. And its answers are just phenomenal. So please check out those 2 interviews on my Substack. But I'll say, and I made these comments in those articles, just basically saying, we have to use this tool cautiously, and there's a temptation to assume AI is correct, and it's often not. For example, Grok, and we have a phone call that we're going to take in just a moment, so sorry to keep you waiting, Diane, but I'm just going to say quickly that Grok on X said that I played for Sade, which is not true. One of my best friends is the lead guitar player for Sade and was actually the first ever guest right here on the Bassline radio show.
Grok goes crazy.
Yeah, but that wasn't me. That's my good friend. So there's this weird temptation to run the problem through AI, and it's a computer, so we know it got the answer right, but meanwhile it didn't, and then we run with this wrong information based on the miscalculation or the wrong process of gathering information, because somehow, these AI systems, as impressive as they are not perfect. But we have a caller on the line, Diane from New Jersey, who we're welcoming into the conversation. And it's perfect we have a caller from New Jersey because we're talking about this AI issue in the state of New Jersey in the city of Hoboken. How are you, Diane? Welcome to the Bassline.
Good. That's why I called, because I'm from New Jersey, and Hoboken is in Hudson County, where I live in Hudson County too, and it's like already a dictatorship of Democrats that you like nobody even runs against them half the time. And I mean, we have Menendez Jr. as our congressional representative, like, and nobody, and the guy that runs against him is put up by the Democrats as a Republican. It's sickening. And then the woman that's running for governor of New Jersey, Mikey Sherrill, the helicopter pilot, I like to call her, because that's all she talks about is her thing that she is a helicopter pilot. Like, what the hell does that do for me, you know? Makes me so annoyed. But she's a World Economic Forum young global leader. So if you're worried about the surveillance state, and like Fulop from Jersey City, another World Economic Forum young global leader, like those are people. The woman in New York they keep pushing, Elise Stefanik, she's a World Economic Forum young global leader. It's like, you know, and people, like, they get the push. Like, you see this momentum, like, somehow, I don't even know where it comes from. I'm sorry. I have all this. I get so angry about it.
You have every right.
Sorry. Thanks for listening.
No, you have every right, and thank you for that perspective.
I've been an anti-vaxxer. I like anti-vaxxer. I like saying that. I've been one since, like, when my daughter was little, and she's almost 40 now, you know?
Yeah.
It was lonely back then, but they didn't pay as much attention to you then. Like, you could kind of get away with it a little bit, you know?
Yeah. Well, you know,
Anyway.
I've evolved. You know, when I started this program, I made it clear that I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I was just opposed to the measures that were being imposed during COVID. And after listening to my own guests, I just had to simply admit, you know what? I've been persuaded. I'm an anti-vaxxer at this point. But now I've graduated from being an anti-vaxxer. I'm a vaccine abolitionist at this point.
I love it. I love it. Every time you say that, like, I always try to make sure I listen to you, unless I have to go to work, and then I listen to a rebroadcast of you.
Well, I appreciate that.
And I enjoyed you when you used to call you Treese. I hope she's okay.
Me too. Me too.
No, I really do. But anyway, and I would hear you on there, and I think this guy, he is like, he has something, you know. You have something. You have some kind of, like, you're a very good speaker.
I appreciate that so much. And yeah, I'll let you guys know on that note, I do have a sort of a coach let me into the game kind of attitude. I'm prepared to debate these matters anywhere in the world against anybody. I don't care if the guy is the second coming of Albert Einstein, because there's no scientific theory or scientific revelation that justifies the violating of my rights and my sovereignty, or your rights and your sovereignty. So, you know, this notion, they kind of snuck in this idea that they're technocrats and we all agree to living in a technocracy. But no, we did not agree to that. And that needs to be made perfectly clear. We are running out of time, and we have a great song lined up. As I said, Master Cheese is an MC. He has some great music, and we're going to close out today's episode.
He should run for something in Hoboken, because some woman who was against Murphy, she's now running for something in Hoboken because she had some kind of sexual harassment or something. So she, you know, but you know,
that's a good idea.
If you run in Hudson County, I'm voting for you.
There you go.
Thank you.
I like that. Master Cheese for
Hudson County. We need, like, I wish, like, I feel like you have to speak Spanish in Hudson County to run for something, you know. And I'm also kind of old at this point, and I feel like, you know, I don't have that kind of.
There's only two ages, alive and dead.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, thank you for listening. I'm a big fan of yours.
Well, thank you so much.
Show.
Thank you. I appreciate that greatly. Yeah, please spread the word about the Bassline. Please check out the new Substack article.
Hoboken is a cool place.
It really is. I've taught there a lot.
They used to have good music places to go see music that are gone, like Maxwell's and stuff too.
Oh, wow.
You know, so.
Yeah, you know, I taught
anyway.
in Hoboken for the past few years, and I'd literally take photos and send them back to my wife and just say, wow, why can't we live in a nice little town like this without people just screaming on the streets and all the stuff that we experience every day in Harlem. But Kevin, do you have that song queued up by any chance?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, Diane. So yeah, we're closing out, guys. We're pretty much out of time here. Please remember October 26th at Rock Mill. Please check out my latest Substack article. Like, share, and subscribe. I think right now it's sitting on 35 likes. If the Bassline audience could jump in there and get it up to 40 and 50 likes, that would be awesome. And also the new YouTube channel. We're getting the Bassline episodes uploaded to YouTube if people are less scared of that sort of more commercial platform. And yeah, here we go. We have a song by Master Cheese. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you next week.
Love you guys.